Hello and welcome to my weekly book review. And today I want to talk to you about The Last Unicorn by Peter S Beagle. Now, I actually don't own a copy of this book, so I had to go out and rent one from the library. And the reason I didn't want to buy a copy is because I'm planning on buying the Suntup Edition that'll be offered for sale starting this week. But more on that at the end of the video. So I read the actual Last Unicorn itself, and it was an incredible tale. But I also found out that it was adapted into a graphic novel. So I figured I'll show you the graphic novel while I'm talking about it, because I read this as well, and what an incredible adaptation just the novel is. But it's a little more colorful, a little more picturesque to show you in the video itself. So I'll show you this as we're going along. It was adapted by Peter B. Gillis with art by Renae De Liz. And it starts with a great little story here about when Peter S. Beagle was 4 years old. His mother was a school teacher, brought him in. He talked about a story of a unicorn and said, thank you, I will come back and tell you more about unicorns someday. And he feels this novel is his promise. So if you're not familiar with the story of The Last Unicorn, it follows the titular unicorn living in her very, very beautiful lilac wood. I want you to overhear some farmers talking about how she might be the last of her kind, and so she decides to venture out from her forest to try to find other unicorns. Along the way, she runs into many a character, such as the cryptic butterfly, who is always speaking in different fonts within different lettering here, which is just fantastic. And she meets Schmendrick the magician, she meets Molly Grew, and many characters along her way, such as Captain Cully, all eventually coming to her adventures and her facing off against the Red Bull, which she is told by that butterfly earlier on has chased all of the other unicorns away. I don't want to show you too much of this or get into too many specific details because I don't want to spoil anything. But she learned some important lessons along the way, and it is an incredible journey, an incredible story that is a beautiful tale to read to your children, but also very much a touching tale to read as an adult, which is just, it speaks wonders of it. I mean, Patrick Rothfuss gives a nice little blurb on the cover here saying it's the best book he has ever read. You need to read it. If you've already read it, you need to read it again. And what an incredible blurb that is. It's not like one of those Stephen King blurbs where you can just write it off. No, like The Last Unicorn, it holds up. It is just incredibly well written. It is witty as all hell. Peter S. Beagle has an incredible style to his prose that really sucks you in. If you haven't read The Last Unicorn, you need to read The Last Unicorn. And then you can check out the IDW graphic novel. It was a six-issue comic that kind of got compiled into the graphic novel. And this is not necessarily for kids because it has some pretty crazy imagery, especially with like Mommy Fortuna here. She is downright terrifying. Look at that. It'll give your kids nightmares. So don't show the kids the graphic novel. One thing I will say about the graphic novel is that Peter B. Gill, is that what his name was? Peter B. Gillis. It says he adapted it. Man, he kind of took the lines like verbatim. I mean, obviously you can't fit the entire novel. You have to trim it and polish it up in order to get it into a graphic novel format. But like line for line, it is pretty much just the novel. One thing I will say for the graphic novel in particular is that it could have been longer. There were 6 issues, and there's a nice kind of dividing point for each of these 6 chapters. So, the first issue is basically just the first chapter of the novel. The second issue is the second and third chapters of the novel dealing with Mommy Fortuna. The third chapter deals with Captain Cully. Yeah, Captain Cully, Jack Jingley, which is when Molly Grew joins him. The fourth chapter deals with them encountering the Red Bull. And then the final 2 chapters deal with King Haggard's castle, which, if you're familiar with the novel, you're probably thinking, man, King Haggard's castle is like half of the damn novel. And you're right, it is half of the novel. And that half of the novel is then jammed into 2 issues at the back of the graphic novel, which doesn't do it any favors. I felt the last 2 chapters kind of go for untraditional, like non-traditional comic book style. Like this page here you can see the clock in the background. It actually goes clockwise around it. So like I didn't realize that at first. I'm reading the left half, and I'm like, okay, that made no goddamn sense. Like it just comes out of nowhere, and it's because you're supposed to go clockwise, which is kind of a shame because you kind of lose part of just a little smidge of the art into the crease there. But anyways, that's just nitpicking. It's still an incredible adaptation, and it actually features a very, very nice interview, a conversation with Peter S Beagle. Now, unfortunately, this conversation is very specific to the graphic novel format. He also goes into conversation with Peter Gillis as well. But it would be cool to see this conversation, as tiny as it is, perhaps like, republished in a larger format, just because it kind of actually goes over his career up to that point. Really interesting. But anyways, The Last Unicorn, it holds up. If you haven't read this novel, you need to read this novel. And I'm uploading this on Wednesday the 20th, starting tomorrow, Thursday the 21st of September. The Suntup Edition will be for sale, or at least the Classic Edition will be. Now, I don't have any insider knowledge on that whatsoever. Everything I know is just based on what I've gathered from his Suntup's announcement schedule and an interview that he had done with Collectible Book Vault. So Collectible Book Vault is when he mentioned he was doing The Last Unicorn with art by Thomas Kidd. And then the clue for the announcement schedule is very clearly The Last Unicorn. So it will be 3 editions. There will be a classic, a numbered, and a lettered edition. So all 3 are going to be signed by Peter S Beagle, and they should all be signed by Thomas Kidd as well. Or Tom Kidd? I think it goes by Tom Kidd. Whose artwork is incredible. I loved his dust jackets for the books of Babel that Subterranean Press did. So very excited to see what he does with The Last Unicorn. I can't remember how many classic editions there are. 500 or 750? I think it was 750 originally. It might have been pulled back to 500. But it's probably going to sell quickly. The last classic edition sold out in the same day. It's probably going to be the same situation here with The Last Unicorn. Same thing goes for the numbered edition. If there are any numbered editions left come Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, they're probably going to go in the blink of an eye. So if you want a copy of the Suntup edition of The Last Unicorn, be ready, because you're going to want to dive in and get that copy as quickly as you can. I am sure that it is going to be outstanding. It's going to be tough to top the gorgeous editions from last month, which are Winterset Hollow, which just looks stunning. But I have faith in Paul Suntup, and I have faith in what he can do with this art form. I say this art form as I'm flipping through the graphic novel. It's not going to be the graphic novel. It's going to be the novel proper. But he's given such love to great novels. Some of his favorites, such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I can't wait to see what he does with a classic novel like The Last Unicorn. Seriously, if you have not read this, go read this book. It's a quick read. It's a very quick read, but it is a worthwhile read. You're going to love it. Buy a copy for yourself. Buy a copy for your kids. One thing that kind of surprised me is when I went back and reread the announcement schedule, there was nothing about a new introduction or new afterword, which I feel like every Suntup edition has had an introduction or afterword, except for the Thomas Harris books. But it doesn't appear to be any new material for The Last Unicorn here, which kind of surprises me because, Patrick Rothfuss did the blurb on the cover here. He actually did a full introduction for the most recent edition that just came out in 2022. So I kind of expected that to be in the edition that Suntup's putting out. But there was no word of it being signed by an introductory author. So I guess Rothfuss is not having his introduction in the edition. But either way, you could probably find that edition on Amazon. You can do a little free read, and you could probably just read that introduction from there alone. That's what I did for The Godfather with the new edition that Suntup did. Seriously, check out The Last Unicorn. Check out Peter S Beagle. I've actually never read anything else that he's done. I know that another one of his novels did get a graphic novel adaptation, so I think I'm going to go and read that once I finish up with a couple other titles. Check out Suntup Editions and their upcoming versions. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing, and we will see you around next time.